Alright, somehow we lost our live stream while I was walking, which isn't too surprising, really. In fact, the computer really wanted to reboot. So now I'm just gonna see. We still got 70% power, so I'm not even going to bother to plug this thing in. Alright, so this is a little conference room. There's room for 4 people, and there's an outlet. And I'm using Wi-Fi for my connection. I don't know how the latency is, or if there's a delay with between the audio and the video. I have no way of checking that right this second. But anyway, this is all experimental right now until we get settled down. So this is the 6th show, and so far it's been interesting for me to see all the different possibilities for doing this and what the good, the bad, and the ugly are. So right now I'm going to go back to our desktop here. As you can see over here in the corner, there's a button to stream and a button to record. So you can use this as an offline recording studio, which turns out to be quite useful if you're producing a show. And that means that also you can, of course, edit things. I particularly like the live streaming because it's over with. I don't have to spend hours editing. Just like to show you that this does have also a studio mode, which doesn't really work right now because it's going to just make an infinite, it's like standing in between 2 mirrors, it's going to make an infinite scene. But anyway, the studio mode, normally you see the preview and the different scenes that you have available in a different format. I particularly like this format because I like to be able to see the audio, I like to be able to see the VU meter, and I like to be able to see the different things over here as a list rather than because of the things that I'm doing. These are typically the things that I'm doing are not live. There are going to be short videos that I'm going to be talking about with a guest, so that suits me better. However, I know a lot of people are doing different things with this. Here's another thing too. Let's see if I can bring this up about the settings. That doesn't really seem to work, but if you do click on settings, you can change all sorts of different things. Like you can have a video start over when you do the transition, or you can have it take up where it left off, and that's very useful if you want to stop a video in the middle and talk about it, for example, and then go back right to where you were. Or in the case of a logo, like here's our extra, so I'll just do this, and I always want this obviously to go, I obviously want that to always start at the beginning and then end. I never want to interrupt that. So it takes a lot of, there are so many different options with OBS Studio that it's going to take me a while to get up to speed on it. Typically, as a director, I don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff because other people do it for me. But here with this live streaming and this open source software, free software, you have to be able to do it all yourself because you're going to be using volunteers and you're going to have to be able to teach them everything that they need to know. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to start doing this rather than just keep planning it and figuring all this stuff out before we actually went live, because it's hard to learn it all. There's a lot to learn in video technology. You have to have a willingness to learn hardware, software, you have to learn lighting, you have to learn about lighting, and frankly it's overwhelming. It's been overwhelming for me to learn all the different things, and if you're like that, so I'm trying to think of what else I can tell you about this. Luckily I did most of it downstairs. I'll just point out that there's a mixer here, there's an audio mixer. You should be able to see it there. And this audio mixer turns out to be, just wait until that motorcycle goes by. This audio mixer turns out to be very useful because you can instantly mute. If I instantly mute the audio, you You can also do advanced settings here, and you can mix more than one audio source. You could add audio sources over here in the sources window, and so for example, I can talk over a video while I'm saying it, or I can add sound to a picture, a static picture. So there's lots of flexibility with that. Or I could even take an external. I like to use an external mixer though, because there's something about an external mixer rather than running a mouse that is easier for me I don't have to think so much. It's more of a I think the word is kinesthetic, where you're just doing things from your hand, from feeling it instead of having to think about it. I find that with a mouse I have to think too much. I have to think where I'm going to put the mouse, and if I have a mixer I can just touch it with my fingers and know where I am. So I still like that discrete mixing. And let's see, there's a little window here for screen transition, so there are all sorts of different ways that you can do transitions. I haven't even started to explore that yet, but you can do a wipe, or you can do a cut, or you can do a fade. There are all sorts of different options there. And the other thing, just the last thing I wanted to mention that I haven't figured out, that I really need to figure out, is how to do name keys. And I know there's a way to do it, but I just haven't managed to figure it out yet. So that's probably the next show. The next show we're going to be talking about entheogens. I have two gentlemen coming on the show. Well, it may not be the next show, but I'm planning a show. It was supposed to be today, as a matter of fact, but another thing came up for one of the gentlemen, and also, as it turns out, when I got to our normal venue, they were using a large sander, which made it impossible for me to do anything because it was so loud. So I wandered over here to the library to check out their rooms, and as it turns out, it's a very easy thing to do. You simply go, that's what I can do, is I can just explain how to set up, how to reserve a room at the library. The Greater Victoria Public Library has a number, probably a dozen, nice little rooms that are very quiet. They've got an internet connection and they've got power. This one is one of the smaller ones. It's only got 4 seats in it, but there also are larger conference room where you could have a dozen people talking at the same time. And so as we continue to develop this show, and our other show, Citizens Forum, probably is going to eventually turn into a streaming show also, or it may not be live, but it will eventually probably have a different venue, simply because the community TV, the funding for community TV is drying up all over Canada. They've already closed down many of the stations, and we're still here in Victoria. We've still got access to it, but we don't know for how long. So we appreciate anybody watching our YouTube channel. We've got over 200 subscribers now, and people are starting to find us and watch our videos on the internet instead of on the television. So we appreciate all of you who are tuning into these shows, and we'd love it if you leave comments, suggestions, topics you'd like to hear about. We do know that we are one of the only sources here that talks about some of the subjects that we talk about, and we want to keep it that way. We want to keep things interesting and have feature shows that talk about things that aren't typically brought up on a normal news station, or aren't covered in the way that things are, some of the drive-by consulting that we've seen. We really are in a time of rapid change, and so we're just trying to keep up with that, both in the technology we use and in what we report on. So again, thank you very much for listening, and I think that's it for today. That's been a 45-minute minus the time it took me to walk up here, and I see our connection is sort of dicey again. So thanks for watching, and this show will be archived on YouTube automatically, and it will also have subtitles available. So we'll see you soon.